He was born grabbing a heel, striving, grasping, always chasing something that wasn't his. His name was Jacob, the supplanter, the deceiver. From birth, he lived as a struggler. But one night under the stars by a riverbank, Jacob would wrestle with more than man. He would wrestle with God. And in that fight, he would be forever changed. Jacob's story begins before he takes his first breath. Even in the womb, he fought for position. His mother, Rebekah, carried twins, Jacob and Esau. But the pregnancy was painful, abnormal. 2 nations, God said, were in her womb, and the younger would rule over the older. It didn't make sense then, but God was writing a story where the least would become the greatest, where the broken would be chosen, where the struggler would be blessed. When the twins were born, Esau came first, but Jacob came out right after, gripping his brother's heel, always reaching, always wanting. And so they named him Jacob, the one who grasps, the one who deceives. From the start, Jacob lived by his own strength. He didn't wait for God's timing. He hustled, manipulated, negotiated his way into blessings. One day, when Esau was weak with hunger, Jacob made a trade, a bowl of stew for a birthright. And Esau, blind to the future, gave it away. But Jacob wanted more. The birthright wasn't enough. He wanted the blessing too. So, with his mother's help, he dressed in Esau's clothes, covered his arms with goatskin, and tricked his blind father, Isaac. And with trembling hands, Isaac laid the covenant blessing, not on the firstborn, but on the deceiver. The blessing was real, but so were the consequences. Esau burned with rage. Jacob had to run, and for the next 20 years he lived in exile, far from home, far from peace, far from the presence of God. Jacob ran to his uncle Laban, a man just as cunning as he was. And for the first time, Jacob was out-schemed. He worked 7 years to marry Rachel, the woman he loved. But on the wedding night, Laban gave him Leah. 7 more years of labor, more deals, more striving. Jacob eventually became rich, cattle, servants, flocks, children. But peace, he still didn't have it. He had what he wanted, but he didn't know who he was. His whole life had been built on chasing blessings. Yet he remained a restless soul until God called him to go back to the land he fled, back to his brother Esau, back to the place of his deception. Jacob obeys, but he's terrified. Esau had vowed to kill him, and now, after all these years, Jacob must face what he's avoided. He sends gifts ahead, splits his camp in 2, tries, once again, to strategize his way out. He even prays, "I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies and of all the truth which you have shown your servant. Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother." But deep down, Jacob knows this battle isn't just about Esau. It's about him, his identity, his guilt, his fear, his dependence on his own strength. And so, he sends his family across the river, and he's left alone. For the first time in decades, Jacob is stripped of everything. No wealth, no wives, no children, no schemes, just silence and the sound of flowing water. Then, a man appears. The text is sudden, even shocking. And Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. Who was this man? Not Esau, not a bandit, not a stranger. It was God, the one Jacob had been running from, had finally come to confront him, but not with wrath, with a wrestle. This was not a symbolic dream. This was a physical, real struggle. Jacob wrestled through the night, grabbing, holding, resisting, straining. And God didn't overpower him, not at first, because sometimes God lets us fight, not because he's weak, but because he wants us to come to the end of ourselves. Jacob had always won, always gotten his way, but now he meets a God he can't manipulate, a God he can't bribe, a God who won't play games. Hours pass. Jacob is bruised, bleeding, breathless, but he won't let go. So finally the man touches his hip, just a touch, and his hip dislocates instantly. And Jacob breaks. He collapses. The pain sears through him, and in that moment he realizes this is not just a man, this is God. And now, broken, crippled, exposed, Jacob clings, not to fight, but to hold on. "I will not let you go unless you bless me," he cries. This is not the demand of a manipulator. It's the desperate cry of a man who finally knows, "I can't do this on my own anymore." The question that changed everything. Then God asks him, "What is your name?" Strange, isn't it? God already knew. But he wanted Jacob to say it, to admit it, to confess it. "I'm Jacob," he says. In other words, I'm the deceiver, the liar, the one who stole, the one who ran, the one who's been striving all my life. And God says, "Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel. For you have struggled with God and with men, and have prevailed." In that one sentence, everything changes. Jacob, the deceiver, dies. Israel, the prince with God, is born. The man who once grabbed for blessings now receives one he didn't earn. The man who once ran from God now clings to him. The man who once tricked his way into a name now receives one by grace. Broken, but blessed. Wounded, but changed. Weakened, but stronger than ever before. As the sun rises, Jacob walks away from that river, but he limps, forever marked, forever changed. That limp would remind him, God broke me to bless me. He would never walk the same again. And that was the point. Because God doesn't just want to change your circumstances. He wants to change your name, your identity, your source, your story. Soon after, Jacob meets Esau. And to his shock, Esau embraces him, forgives him, weeps with him. The brother he feared became the mirror of grace, because when you wrestle with God, the enemies you feared lose their power. The guilt that haunted you loses its grip. The past that defined you becomes a testimony. And Jacob, Israel, walks into a new chapter. No longer running, no longer deceiving, no longer grasping. He has found peace because he has seen God face to face. Maybe you've lived like Jacob, always striving, always planning, always trying to make it happen on your own. Maybe you've worn masks, spoken half-truths, lied to others, and to yourself. Maybe you've run from your past, avoided the hard conversations, feared the day you'd have to come face to face with what you've done and who you've become. Maybe you're at the riverbank now, alone, afraid, exhausted. If so, you're in the perfect place for a divine wrestle. Lessons from Jacob wrestling. One, God will meet you in the night. Jacob didn't go looking for God, but God came anyway. And he'll come for you too. Not just in church, but in the dark, in the lonely places, in the silence, in the moments you feel forgotten. Don't fear the dark. That's where divine wrestles begin. 2. You can't be blessed until you're broken. God didn't bless Jacob before touching his hip. He blessed him after he was broken. Some blessings only come through brokenness. When your strength fails, when your plans fall apart, when you finally stop pretending and start clinging. 3. You can't move forward until you face who you've been. When God asked Jacob his name, it was a call to honesty. God is not afraid of your truth. He can handle your failures, but he needs you to face them, because healing begins where hiding ends. 4. God gives you a new identity. Jacob came to the river as a deceiver. He left as a prince. God doesn't just clean you up. He renames you. You are not your past, not your sin, not your scars. You are who he says you are. 5. Limping is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of encounter. Some of the most powerful people in the kingdom walk with a limp because they've been through something. You don't have to be perfect, just surrendered. Better a limping saint than a running fugitive. The God who wrestles God didn't crush Jacob. He wrestled him. That's how God deals with us. He doesn't destroy, he confronts, he contends. He stays through the night until we're ready to let go of who we were, so he can make us into who we were meant to be. So if you're wrestling right now, don't tap out. Hold on. Cling to God, even in the pain, even when the answers don't come, even when it hurts, because the wrestle is not your defeat, it's your turning point. And if you'll stay, if you'll endure, if you'll confess, you'll hear the voice that changed Jacob's life. Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel. And like him, you'll limp away blessed, marked by grace, redeemed by truth, transformed by the God who wrestled you to save you. You're not who you used to be. You're not what you've done. You are becoming who God has called you to be, even if it takes a wrestle to get there. Let us know in the comments below what you've been wrestling with or what encounter has transformed your life.